Everyone, my name is Erin and I am here with Elizabeth Connor, and we are both licensed CAMs in Florida and Georgia. And we are here to talk about hurricane preparedness for condo associations. So if you aren't aware, June 1st is the first day of hurricane season. So it's right here. There's actually action going on in the Gulf currently. So always good to be prepared and know what roles everyone needs to take. What does a threat with a hurricane actually look like, and what do we need to look for, warning signs and watches, and how do we prepare for hurricane if they're on the way? So just to get started, let's talk about hurricanes in general. First, the threat that they can create and the threat that they are. There's different categories for hurricanes. So we just want to kind of touch on those to make sure everybody's aware. Elizabeth, you want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So as Erin mentioned, we've got 5 categories that you need to be on the lookout for. There's a category 1, and of course they go up to a category 5, and they increase based on wind and damage expectation. Category 1 is basically like 75 to 95 mile per hour winds, which is dangerous, and you will have some damage. They can quickly escalate, as we know. A lot of times we'll see reports of an expected landfall of a Cat 2, and then it strengthens over the Gulf or over the Atlantic, and it ends up being a Cat 5. So again, just always want to be alert to that. Cat 5 at this point is the strongest hurricane that's been classified, and that is catastrophic damage. So, we always hope for no hurricane or a Cat 1 at the worst, but we want to prepare for the worst and, hope for the best.
Especially if you're in a condominium that's right along the water. I mean, you got to really make sure that all your ducks are in a row and that you're really prepared for anything that could potentially happen, because also you can go from a category 1 to a category 3 in a matter of hours. So it's and same from a 3 to a 5. So very important to make sure that you are prepared and that everything is safeguarded. Also, knowing the difference between a hurricane watch and a hurricane warning. So a hurricane watch means it is possible that you could experience a hurricane within the next 48 hours. And the warning is it's expected to hit your area in less than 36 hours. So knowing the difference, making sure that you're listening to the weather channel, making sure that you're keeping up to date with what's going on. If you are in an evacuation zone, anything like that, very imperative to know just the general basics behind hurricanes and how to deal with them, and making sure that you're staying educated during that process.
That's right. And so, there's several steps that you want to take note of, and preparing the condo association is of huge importance. So you want to establish your hurricane prepared committee. You want to develop an emergency response plan. And there's a lot involved in that. First thing you want to do is, know ahead of time, what type of shelters are going to be available in the event that there is an evacuation. Do they take pets? You have a lot of people, pets are their children. So that's important as well. Also in these emergency response plans, you want to make sure you have your contracts lined up in advance, your landscapers, your plumbers, your electricians, whatever you may need. If you have a marina, some sort of assistance with a boat docking and so forth. So there's a lot of things that need to be set up in advance. And if you have these contracts and you set them up for, hurricane response, then, when everybody is looking for somebody to come help them out, you've got that contract. So you've got that relationship. You've got them ready to respond to you so that you can have your community taken care of as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And that's all of those points are just, they're very important. But also, we also want to make sure that we're protecting our condos. Or want to make sure that we're safeguarding the common areas and amenities, by implementing storm resistant measures for common areas, and also securing pool areas, clubhouses, any other amenities. The last thing that you would want to happen is to have pool chairs, out, by the pool deck, and you have these high winds, and it's, unnecessarily taking a chair and throwing it into a window across the street, all because you weren't prepared.
That's right.
You weren't, securing all the amenities correctly. So having somebody to make sure that they know the role to go and do that is it's imperative.
That's right. And, along with protecting the condo, that involves, regular maintenance inspections. You want to make sure that there's no vulnerable areas that the storm could, obviously tackle at a stronger situation. So making sure that, regular assessments of the building itself. If you've got parking garages, you want to be prepared for that in the event that there's flooding. If you have folks who are parking in the garage, make sure they're not parking in there when that storm is headed that way, because that could really be an issue with, first of all, the vehicles themselves, but also just being able to leave the property.
Right. And also just making sure that you're ensuring resident safety and education, making sure that you're promoting that educational preparedness, among the residents, providing educational resources on hurricane safety, conducting drills and training sessions, just making sure that even if it's just sending out an email, if hurricane season's on the way, these are going to be the tips and the exercises that we're going to do, to implement, protecting our condominium and protecting, things that are valuable to us. So we want to make sure that all of those bases are covered.
That's right. And then speaking of communication, you want to make sure, that you've got all of your homeowners information, their emergency contacts, how to be reached. If they're going to be evacuating, where are they going to be going to? Who will you be able to contact in the event that you can't reach them, that there's, some issues with their, personal space on the property or the property itself. So again, for the evacuation part, knowing where people are going to be, and then making sure that you understand the local authorities and emergency services. What do they have set up? Shelters that are in place, as we mentioned earlier, what will and will not take pets, and so forth. So, understanding the local authorities during hurricanes is super important, and all of that can be found on your local county or city's websites as well.
Yeah. So once we've figured out all of that, let's talk a little bit more about post-hurricane recovery and restoration. After a hurricane, happens, hopefully, it does. But in the case that it does, we all know that a hurricane can change directions in the blink of an eye. We think it's go east and it ends up going west. So, it's always key to be prepared if you're in any area that you have a watch, a warning, storm surge, anything like that, because even if you're not in a direct path does not mean that you're not going to get any remnants weather-wise or flooding. So again, making sure that you're taking note of all of those. But after a hurricane does occur, we want to make sure that we're assessing damages and inspections, conducting initial damage assessments, engaging professional inspectors and contractors if necessary, and also prioritizing restoration and repairs, making sure to develop a phased approach to restoration, ensuring timely repairs and reconstruction, having the communication. And I think, Elizabeth, we talked about that, how communication is just really key. It's key.
Absolutely.
So that you're prepared. It's key in making sure that everybody knows their role, what to do. And then it's key after hurricane too, is providing the communication so owners know what's going on, what to expect, who's getting in touch with vendors, or maybe it's, just navigating insurance claims and reimbursements. So
that's right.
To make sure that, all damages are documented, and we're filing insurance claims if need be, and engaging legal and insurance professionals if necessary. So knowing the roles of all of those different moving parts is, you just need to make sure to have a plan. If you have a plan in place and you're prepared, all of these things are going to go so much easier, and it's going to be much more streamlined. So,
right. And I just want to add with that. So, in the event that you do have, damage to where you have to engage your insurance, you're making sure you have a full understanding of the association's coverage, making sure that owners have an understanding of their own personal coverage. People want to take pictures of their items beforehand, because afterwards, obviously, if there's damage, you're going to need to know specifics, vehicles, boats, the home itself, what have you. So making sure that you've got, a good documentation of what you currently have. And then once, a storm has come through, in the event that there is damage, taking pictures again so that you can show, what has happened through that time. And as far as the communication goes, it's super important for all associations to have a website. That's a great means of communication. Maybe you do a social media platform, Facebook, what have you. So just making sure that you've got a way to communicate the issues, making sure that folks are well aware of insurance, plans for the community, and having in this emergency response plan that you've got, having a point of contact. They always want to have backup, obviously, if that person's not available, but having one person or two people, I guess I should say, that have the ability to make decisions for the community in the event that there's an emergency, so that you're not being held up.
Right. And just, to piggyback off of what you said about, and insurance claims and damages, you have to make sure that all owners do know to not go in right after a hurricane and mess with anything, or have a contractor come out without the board, knowing. So a lot of people want to help, but if you don't get the pictures of the initial damage, or you try to start fixing things and repairing things on your own, then sometimes it's not going to be insurable, anymore. You're going to miss out on that claim because you're already trying to do the repairs on your own. So, making sure that you're going about everything correctly and in the right way is imperative.
That's right. And you also want to, engaging in the community and the ownership that's there, organize initiatives and volunteer programs for people, because, hopefully you don't have, catastrophic damage, but you may have enough damage to where, you need some help cleaning up the community and getting things taken care of. So, just preparation is key. Preparation and planning and getting everything in place as you can. And I know we're going to touch on this next, but obviously after each incident, we learn from something and we understand things we should have done or could have done better. So
yeah, that's with anything in life. Once something happens, you're always man, shoulda, coulda, woulda. What could I
that's
have
right.
different? What can I improve on next time? And what changes are we gonna make? And how are we gonna make our hurricane prep plan better for next time? Mm-hmm. Do we need and how are we gonna improve? So very important.
So maybe we can just run down again, just kind of some importance. So understanding the threat of hurricanes, what that means for your area, preparing the condo association, establishing this preparedness committee and an emergency plan, making sure we're protecting the property, safeguarding common areas and so forth, having a communication in line that will be available for everyone before, during, and after the storm. Right. And then, as mentioned, the cleanup and recovery that we may have to experience.
Right. Yeah, all key items, in developing a plan. So that's key, developing a plan and always keeping it current and making sure, as you said, Elizabeth, that all contacts are always updated.
That's right.
All contacts and contact information. So very important.
That's right.
Any questions? Anything else to add? Well, thank you for joining us at the Hurricane Prep webinar. We hope you can take away a couple of tips from this as hurricane season is approaching. Hopefully it won't be an active season, but we encourage everybody to be prepared.
That's right.
Regardless.
Be prepared and be safe.
Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.